Hello and welcome to Fortress Alaska. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going to be talking about the truth of the 10mm cartridge. Just a couple here to show you real quick. We have a full metal jacket, which is good target ammo, and then nice deep hollow points for self-defense use. I personally use the full metal jackets even for my self-defense because I'm more likely to run across problems with a bear or moose than I am with a person, and I need massive penetration, so I go with full metal jackets. But I do have the hollow points in case I do find a need to where I think I will need it for other types of self-defense. So let's start off by looking at various different cartridges to compare it to. So here we have some very common handgun calibers, and going left to right we have the 380 ACP, the 9mm Parabellum, the 357 SIG, the 40 Smith & Wesson, or the 10mm short, the 10mm full metal hollow point, 10mm full metal jacket, the 45 ACP, the 357 Magnum, and the 44 Magnum. Notice that the cartridges from the 45 to the left are all designed for semi-automatic firearms, while the last two, the 357 Magnum and the 44 Magnum, have rim cartridges, and they are meant for use in revolvers. So let me show you that in a little bit more detail. So let's pick up a 44 Magnum here. If you look on the 44 Magnum, you can see it has a very distinct rim. Try to get that to focus. So you can see it's got a very distinct rim that extends well past the case, and that's so it can fit into a revolver, and it'll hang on to the end of the revolver cylinder and won't go all the way in. Whereas a semi-automatic cartridge is rimless because it is head spaced up by the mouth of the case, and that's where it stops, and it does not depend on the rim to headspace it or hold it into the chamber of a semi-automatic pistol. And also, rimless cases work infinitely better inside a magazine than do rimmed cases. While there are a few handguns that do fire rimmed semi-automatic pistol cartridges, such as the Kunin and the Desert Eagle, they are the exception to the rule, and in reality I would never trust my life on one of them because rim cartridges are notorious for not feeding well out of pistol magazines. So let's talk very briefly about the 10mm cartridge. Its parent case is the 30 Remington. It is the 10mm or the 10x25mm 10mm auto, and it's a rimless semi-automatic pistol cartridge, as we've already discussed why we have some rimless cartridges for semi-automatics. It was originally from Norma Ammunition, came out in 1983, and development was aided by Jeff Cooper. It was originally designed for the Bren 10 from Dornis and Dixon Enterprise. At that time it was the only 10mm pistol, and it was a whopping failure because they had magazine issues, and when you bought your gun, sometimes you didn't get a magazine. You had to wait for them to get you a magazine, and they had all kinds of problems, so it died. And then the 10mm basically went away. But in 1987, Colt introduced the Delta Elite in the 1911, and that helped bring back the 10mm. Although it had problems with those original Colt 1911s, and they didn't fare well either. The FBI adopted it in 1989 due to the 1986 Miami shootout. Smith & Wesson created the Model 1076 in 1990 and the 1026 thereafter, the 1026 being the compact version. The FBI, as I mentioned before, deemed it was too powerful, and they went to the 40 Smith & Wesson. Good loads for the 10mm will give you a 180 grain bullet at almost 1,300 feet per second for over 700 foot-pounds of energy. making it neck and neck on class with the 357 Magnum. But if you actually search around, you can always find a quality 357 mag load that will outdo the best 10mm load. But they're close. The 155 grain bullet gives you about 775 foot-pounds of energy, which puts it right on par with the 357 Magnum also. The Glock 20 and 40 are extremely popular 10mm cartridges, handguns. Handguns are also made by SIG, Colt, Dan Wesson, Ruger, Kimber, Smith & Wesson, Springfield Armory, among others. And there are also revolvers where you use moon clips to use the 10mm cartridge. It is a great hunting cartridge for handgun hunting. It is excellent for self-defense. It's great for backcountry and wilderness carry. Many do carry it for bear defense. It's like I said, it's on par with the 357 Magnum, so it will work for bear defense. I prefer a 44 Magnum because bigger is better. The grip size is larger, and we'll pull out a 40 Smith & Wesson to compare. So, as you can see, since the cartridge is longer than the 40 Smith & Wesson, 10mm, since the cartridge is longer, the grip has to be bigger. And in all honesty, I really don't notice that much of a difference in the two grips to make that much difference to me. I have large hands according to glove manufacturers, but I think mine are more medium for the average human, or the average male I should say. So who else uses the 10mm? And it makes an awesome self-defense round. And it's probably the best self-defense round for semi-automatic pistols. That and the 357 Magnum are the two gold standards for self-defense rounds. Your choice, revolver or semi-automatic pistol, 10mm or 357 SIG. 10mm or 357 Magnum. But who else uses it? The government of Denmark issues 10mm Glock 20s for those that patrol the remote areas of Greenland for polar bear defense. They also have a 30-06 rifle, so it's kind of backup. This is the SIG P220 10mm Legion, and it is my favorite 10mm handgun. And in the future we'll see more about it, but this is the premier 10mm handgun. While it does not have the capacity of a P320 or a Glock 20 or the FN 510 or Springfield Armories or Smith & Wessons, it gives you 8 rounds of 10mm, and that is generally going to do the job. So in conclusion, the 10mm cartridge makes an excellent hunting cartridge. It makes an excellent self-defense round. It and the 357 Magnum are probably the two best self-defense rounds you can get. They're basically ballistically equivalent. This being for semi-automatic pistols, the 357 Magnum is best suited for revolvers. So whichever you prefer, these are the two best choices for self-defense work. Despite what other people may say, this is truly the best of the choice. And this may have to be modified to be for werewolf defense also. We'll have to see. I'm often wondering if I can also make that for vampire defense. We'll have to figure that out. Anyways, I'm your host Dave, and this is Fortress Alaska. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, share, comment, ask questions, anything to help the algorithm. And once again, have a good day and get out shooting.